In the shadow of rugged mountain ranges, on the borderlands where wars often broke out and blood was spilled, stood the village of Aiden. The land was barren, torn by winds, and only the strongest could survive in these conditions. The people in the village had known since childhood that the world was not a given, but a right that had to be fought for. Every few years, bandits from the southern lands would raid the village, stealing and killing without remorse. Aiden was just 10 years old when he first witnessed the horrors of war. That morning, the sun had barely risen when screams shattered the village's silence. Black banners appeared on the horizon, and the men of the village scrambled to prepare for battle. Aiden hid with his mother inside their home, watching through the cracks in the walls as his father stood at the forefront, sword in hand, defending the village. But no one was prepared for what followed: the whistling of arrows, the clash of swords, and the cries of pain and fear. The bandits slaughtered the men, women and children, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. Aiden would never forget how his father fell, impaled by a spear. He wanted to run out of the house to help, but his mother held him back, pressing him to her chest. In that moment, something inside him broke: powerlessness. That day, the boy swore to himself that he would never be weak again. Years passed, and Aiden grew older. He became a young man, his body hardened by labor and constant training. Every morning began with exercises. He ran along the rocky trails, struck training dummies, forging himself into a warrior. But even as his body grew stronger, the same fear remained deep inside. At night, he was haunted by the same nightmare: the bandits' return, his father's death, and his own helplessness. This fear became a shadow and followed him throughout his life. One day, a wandering warrior named Lazar came to the village. His face and body were covered in scars, reminders of countless battles. People in the village feared him, but when Aiden looked at him, he felt a strange connection. Lazar offered to take him on as an apprentice. He said, "The strength of your body means nothing if your soul remains a slave to fear." Aiden agreed. The training began, but it was not the kind of training he was used to. Lazar didn't teach him how to fight or kill, but how to listen to his fear, to its source. He taught him that a warrior's true strength is not just in his sword, but in his ability to see his weakness and not be afraid of it. However, Aiden grew impatient. He longed for quick results. One day, tired of Lazar's calm approach, he decided to set out on his own and face the dangerous forest. It was the subject of many legends. They said that in this forest lived a mysterious creature that killed anyone who dared enter its territory. Aiden was convinced that if he defeated this creature, he would prove his strength and finally rid himself of his fear. Gathering his weapons and armor, he set out at dawn. Day after day, he made his way through the dense thickets until he reached an abandoned camp on the forest's edge. There he encountered his first challenge. A sudden mist and strange rustling surrounded him, but instead of fear, Aiden felt an unusual clarity. He was close to his goal, and there, among the trees, he saw a shadow, a massive figure moving toward him. This was the creature he had sought. Without hesitation, he charged into battle. He fought like never before, every movement filled with fury and determination. But his strikes seemed useless. The creature was too fast, too strong. After a long struggle, Aiden was thrown to the ground. The creature's gaze was cold, but not hostile. It leaned down toward him and spoke. "Why have you come here? What do you seek?" Its voice was deep and calm. Aiden, in frustration and defeat, shouted, "I came to defeat you and free myself from fear." The creature took a step back, and to Aiden's surprise began to change. Its shape shifted until it looked exactly like Aiden. The creature mirrored his every feature, and then Aiden understood. This was no monster, but his own shadow, the fear that had lived inside him all along. "You cannot defeat me," the shadow said, "because I am you. I am not your enemy. I am a part of your strength. You came here not for victory, but for acceptance." Aiden lay on the ground, feeling the blood slowly leave his body, but the creature's words pierced deeper than any wound. He realized that all this time he had been fighting not an external enemy, but himself. His fear was not an adversary, but an ally, a part of his soul he had tried to reject. Without it, he would never truly be strong. The shadow disappeared, leaving Aiden alone in the forest. Barely alive, he made his way back to the village. His body was scarred, but inside, he had gained a strength he had never known before. When he returned to the village, he was no longer the same.